Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the BetDeluxe AFL Futures show, where today we're going to be diving into the best futures on offer, all thanks to BetDeluxe. Go on, Deluxe yourself. And to help us do it, there's none other than Kane Corns. The volcano is here. How are you, Kane?
Sammy, I'm great. What a good first round of football it was. Shock results, impossible for your tips, and some really impressive statement performances from a couple of sides.
Absolutely no shortage of talking points, it's fair to say. You know, for a time there, I thought the old VHS had been slipped in and we were watching a bit of bumps, biffs and brawlers. How were some of the hits over the weekend?
Oh, no, I don't know what players are thinking in that moment. I mean, it's split-second decisions, but for Melbourne and 𝘕𝘍𝑒 to get a couple of weeks, the thing was he was so electric and his performance was brilliant moving into the midfield, but we're going to be talking about the hit, which was pretty sickening.
Yeah.
And luckily, Bailey Smith got up, and then McAdam was the same, and Buddy cost himself a week.
Yep, and Melbourne actually gave some thought to appealing that or challenging that suspension, trying to getting it down from 2 to 1. You know, they were thinking internally that, you know, it used to be, well, you can bump, but if you choose to bump and you get him in the head, then you're liable for that. They're saying we've now moved away from that, and it's all now, as we know, around the potential to cause injury. So they were going to go down that path, but I think ultimately the medical report from the Western Bulldogs on Bailey Smith probably counted against them in the end. So 𝘕𝘍𝑒 Smith's going to miss a couple of games, and the great shame of it is he was absolutely dominant.
Yeah,
4 goals, 19 disposals.
Yeah, 8 tackles, and huge game against Brisbane coming up as well. They were poor, Brisbane, so they need to respond at the Gabba, and Melbourne have got some injury concerns, but they were one team that made a statement, and there was a couple of others, including Collingwood and Port Adelaide, were really impressive, and all the 4 new coaches got a win, which I would not have predicted prior to the round one.
Love the GWS win too, for different reasons. We know they're not in the premiership framework, of course, but to do it in that insane heat up there, they've had some injuries as well. They were down and Adelaide jumped them. There was some real resilience about Adam Kingsley.
Yeah, no doubt, and they were poor early, so be able to flip that around with the injuries and the heat that you mentioned. And Toby Green's performance, I'm sure we'll touch on him this morning, but as new captain of the Giants, he was the one that really righted the ship for GWS, and that was a really impressive game in your first game as skipper.
There's a lot to get on with, but weren't they great case studies? Isaac Rankin at one end, Toby Green at the other, because they both had the game on their boot for large periods. Yeah,
well, 7 and 8 shots at goal respectively for those 2 small forwards. And look, I thought, the Green and Duday matchup was terrific, and GWS probably gave Isaac Rankin too much room, and in the end, he could have finished with 7 or 8.
Just before we move on to the markets, should we be worried about the Dino Dogs, as I think you might have termed them? Are they extinct already? I mean, an asteroid wiped out the dinosaurs.
Was it a great start?
Oh, blimey, they went top heavy. We knew they were going to, and we love the story because it's unique in our game. But gee whiz, I think only 8 marks inside 50 from 50 entries. They were outmarked frequently as well, all with a team that were missing Stephen May. So alarm bells, only round 1, but alarm bells ringing in Bevo.
So it's a good test for your coaching, I guess, beliefs.
Yep.
And whether they've practiced it all summer and it's been effective. And they've said, this is the way we're going to go, this is what we train for. It doesn't work round 1 against a very good side, albeit without Stephen May. I think it would be a rash decision to get rid of it straight away.
Yep.
I think you've got to back it in at least for a month and see if it works. Their worry is the opposition transition the ball too easily out of their forward line, and that height doesn't help. So, I mean, they got some challenges. The Western Bulldogs, of all the teams that have some questions that need answering, they would be right up the top.
And the Hawks, boy, going to be a long year. We knew it was going to be a long year for Sam Mitchell's mob, but they would be absolutely flat with that performance.
Yes.
It was atrocious against Essendon at the MC.
Speaking of coaching challenges, I mean, how do you maintain the motivation of that group? Round 1, you'd think that Essendon game was one you would have penciled in for a real good chance to win, particularly with the injuries that they've got, and they lose by 10 goals. So where to now for Sam Mitchell? He's a good coach. He's got real potential, but this is going to test him like no one else.
We could talk for 2 hours on round 1, so let's park that for a moment and let's get to the reason we are here, Kane, and that is the BetDeluxe Futures markets. Let's start with the biggest individual award in the game. So much interest around this, not just in the pointy end of the season, but right throughout the year. So let's have a look at the Brownlow medal market as it sits out of round 1 and heading into round 2. Now, Patrick Cripps, a massive last quarter, but not a huge game against the Tigers in round 1. He's the joint favourite with Marcus Bontempelli, who had a cracking game in a losing side for the Dogs. They're at $10 a piece.
Well, back-to-back Brownlows are hard to win. Not many people have done that, and that's for a reason. Now, no one's going to take votes off Patrick Cripps, so I can see why he is, the equal favourite for the Brownlow medal, particularly with Sam Walsh out for a long period of time. Clayton Oliver, for me, is the value there. 56 votes in the last 2 seasons. He's ready to explode. Probably wasn't in the votes in round 1, albeit he was very good, but Gawn, Petrarca and Pickett were the 3 that would have got the votes. But I mean, he's going to win a lot of football. Melbourne are going to win a lot of games, and he's recognisable by the umpires.
Just before you leave, Clayton Oliver, what on earth was he thinking in that game when he's roosted the ball into row, whatever it was, C in the end, and then was puzzled as to why he gave away the free kick? Just another chapter in a bizarre round one. It's like the players forgot how to do it.
There was a couple of instances like that, a few brain fades. There was 3 or 4 players that missed goals from the goal square. A round one rusty performance, and that was about his only mistake for the night.
Lachie Neale will be better for the run too, by the way. He's on the line of betting at $11. A very quiet opening game for him. But he and Brisbane will be back, I am sure. The Coleman medal. Now, has there been some drifting here? So 3 favourites at the top, Lynch, Curnow, Cameron. Cameron's going to have a baby at some point. Not sure if he's going to miss some football there with his first child. But these 3 have all gone out from $8 pre the start of the season. But they're still equal billing at the top.
Yeah, I mean, Nick Larkey's come up into...
the Suva.
But he's kicked 6 against a really poor West Coast side.
But but the Coleman medal doesn't worry about that. Neither does the market. So he wasn't in the top 5. He's the big bolter here.
Absolutely. And he's got 6 on the board. So runs on the board, as they say in cricket, worth their weight in gold. But they're not going to win many games of football, and it may be tough for him to keep that up. Mackay's the one for me. He's won one before, but his kicking, his kicking on Thursday night was atrocious.
It was. So
not only for goal,
Yeah.
but also kicking inside 50.
I don't know.
That's going to let him down.
Where's he at with the snap? Now, watching him in pre-season, it looked as though he was more willing to kick the traditional drop punt than he had been in years gone by. He mixed it up a little bit on Thursday night against Richmond. I'm not sure if he knows exactly where he's at. I guess the club line is the player will do whatever he thinks is comfortable in doing, and we back him in. But he did look all at sea with
So you have a full pre-season to work on your routine. It's pretty important for a player who's going to have a lot of shots at goal. And still in the moment, he looked a little bit confused. That's what pressure does. But you're right, he had one snap that missed. Then he took a mark moments later, a little bit further out, but from a similar angle, and went with a drop punt. So that's going to cost him. And then what does he do when he's on the other side that doesn't favour...
He goes the drop punt.
He has to go the drop punt. So he's going to get his 80, 90 shots at goal. It's just how many he converts.
Round 1 told us nothing about the Coleman, by the way. She is wide open, so it'll be a fascinating...
Still a watch on Fogarty, all right? Don't write off...
He was your man, of course.
Fogarty for Adelaide.
Now, hang on a minute.
We'll get his odds up, but he kicked 2 and missed a sitter in the last quarter.
$18. So he's at $18 at the moment. Immense value for your anointed one. I did forget about that.
Good value. It's interesting his odds are better than Taylor Walker as well, who kicks a lot of goals and is very accurate for Adelaide.
Let's move to the wooden spoon, shall we? We mentioned Hawthorn off the top. They have done nothing to dispel the suggestion that they might be wooden spooners for this year. They are the favourites at $2.30. North Melbourne at $3. We know are in a rebuilding phase, as are Hawthorn. And then, West Coast. They might have finished strong, but this was one, they blew it against North Melbourne. That was one they had to win.
Probably a race in 3, you would think, the top 3 there. And there's a first-round draft pick that is... everyone's talking about, Harley Reid. So, I mean, it's going to be a great prize to get that first pick. I'm not saying teams won't try and win. They will, but there is a massive bonus for winning the wooden spoon when you've got what a lot of people are saying is Dustin Martin to be taken with the first pick.
You're saying they might be seduced by that already?
I don't know.
We just call a spade here.
There is the Harley Reid race going on. Yeah.
So already?
I think... what's the point of finishing 16th when there's the player to take with the first pick? So
2.5 hours into the season, these clubs are already playing for the Harley Reid Cup.
There's a big prize up for the wooden spoon. Look, I mean, it's hard to go past Hawthorn with what we saw on the weekend.
Yeah. They would be alarmed with the effort or the lack of effort, as Sam Mitchell spoke about, and Essendon absolutely took them to the cleaners. The minor premiers. So this is where we're at here. Geelong, the favourite at $3.70. Melbourne were magnificent at the weekend, $5 on the second line of betting. And we'll get to the flag in a moment, but it changes. So the minor premier, the Cats, they know how to get it done in the regular season, and they are pretty strong favourites.
And the reason behind that is the amount of home games they play and the advantage that they've got at GMHBA. So teams go there and they don't win. So they're going to get, I think it's 9 there. So, I mean, they probably get 8, just walk-up starts. Then they get their other games at the MCG where they play really well and they won't travel that often. So that is where the minor premiership comes into it. That gets them to 16, 17 wins. Probably they may start slowly with the shorter preparation that they've had. But Melbourne's a good bet there as
Yeah.
well, and I'm sure Brisbane have drifted out with what we saw in round one.
All the talk around the Traps pre-season was that Melbourne were back, and they thought they were back, and they're going in bull at a gate. So they've completely franked that, albeit only in round one. And then Brisbane have got to get their skates on too, because defensively they were poor against Port Adelaide. They did nothing to address that over the off-season. For all the hype and Hollywood talk around their trade period, defensively they remain a concern.
Sydney's a sneaky one there.
And then Sydney just fifth line of betting as well. You speak about home ground advantage.
Exactly. The SCG is the most unique ground to play on, and if you're not familiar with it, it's really tough for opposition teams to go and play there. So, look, you'd back them in to win 80% of their games at the SCG, and then they're going to pinch a few away. So it looks to be no grand final hangover for Sydney. They look hungry and motivated, albeit Gold Coast will pour.
Do they ever? Now, let's have a look at the premiership. This is where it does get interesting, because on the eve of the season,
the
Geelong
Cats.
and Melbourne, they flipped. So the Cats were favourite, Melbourne's second line of betting. Now it's flipped off the back of round one. So the punters still like the Cats for the minor premiership, but when it comes to the Holy Grail second line of betting, Melbourne at $5.
Good value there for Collingwood as well. I mean, they have all the pieces. They look like a premiership team at the moment, and it is early, but it is a fair body of work now to suggest that they're going to be right there when it matters. They've got powerful runners everywhere, and
offensively they are a joke.
And they've got depth as well. And they're going to need it. Jeremy Howe is out, but Billy Frampton's there. The changes that they've made through the midfield and the forward mix looks to have worked. And Jordan 𝘚𝘵𝘬 could, finally have a breakout year. He's never had a breakout year. He led the goal kicking in 2018, but has never been All-Australian, never finished top three in their best and fairest. From what we've seen through the pre-season and in round one, he could absolutely explode and be the Dustin Martin 2017 version for Richmond.
Speaking of offensive firepower, I do note on the line of betting there, Richmond at a $9 chance, equal fifth line of betting with your Swans. From elimination final exit to potential premier, not without a chance?
I don't know. I don't know if they've got the quality of Melbourne and Geelong and Collingwood. So they're a final shot. Are they a premiership shot for me? Probably not.
What a fascinating round one. If this is a sign of things to come, heaven forbid, we are going to be absolutely in for a treat in 2023. BetDeluxe have got you covered absolutely everywhere. Some amazing odds, all on offer, all thanks to BetDeluxe. So go on Deluxe yourself.
What are you really gambling with? For free and confidential support, call 1-800-858-858 or visit gamblinghelponline.org.au.